evening to you and welcome to The Bottom Line, a wrap of the business news of the day. I'm Frances Hurd. And we start, as we often do, with the number of the day. Now, the FinCEN files, a global data leak of banking documents, has put money laundering in the spotlight. Let's take a look. The number of the day is $1 trillion, because that is what the United Nations estimates could be the annual value of money that is laundered throughout the world. Another way to put this is that money laundering could equal 5% of goods and services produced by the entire global economy. Well, yesterday, selected media outlets started reporting on a leak of documents that includes more than 2,000 suspicious activity reports sent by banks to the U.S. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of Banks, or FinCEN. Banks send these reports to authorities if they suspect that customers could be engaged in illegal activity. The problem is the banks continue to then move cash for these companies and individuals, suggesting that they possibly knew about the flow of dirty money but turned a blind eye. So major banks around the world have been implicated in this leak called the FinCEN files, and South African banks are mentioned as well. The documents reportedly show that 173 transactions that flowed to or from banks in this country were red flagged. You'll recall a UK politician and activist, Lord Peter Hain, has previously claimed that banks such as HSBC facilitated the Guptas in laundering billions of rand. HSBC is Britain's biggest bank, and the FinCEN files suggest it may have allowed fraudsters to transfer millions of dollars around the world, even after learning of a Ponzi scheme. Lawyers for the swindled investors say the bank should have acted sooner to close the accounts. The leaked documents also suggest that one of the big banks in the US may have helped a notorious mobster to move more than $1 billion. Now, the files contain information about more than $2 trillion worth of transactions between 1999 and 2017. So this is something we'll watch. Will South African banks be further implicated? Will they respond to their mention in these FinCEN files? Another big data leak that has global implications. Now, today marks the beginning of arguably one of the most important weeks for SAA. Government is expected to honour a commitment made last week to provide over 10 billion rand needed to save the airline, and that's from liquidation. Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan says he's confident that government will come up with the money this week, but SAA trade unions aren't so optimistic. Let's take a look.
A question of trust. That's what it's all about, according to Kosatu.
You will remember that a public servant signed a contract in 2018, and now government has reneged on that. So if government fails to actually fund this plan, where government committed itself to say it was going to do everything to honor this plan, then it will be a big problem for us, because we don't want to have a situation where we have a government that we cannot trust. Either the government is going to be trusted by workers and South Africans or not. But if they fail to actually come out with a funding model and put the money into the plan that we all collectively developed, then that it will be a problem.
SAA employees were last paid their salaries back in March. The airline's business rescue practitioners say the coffers have completely run dry.
For the last 4 months or more, our members at SAA have had no salaries. They've had to depend on the temporary employee relief scheme at UIF. And unfortunately, that money, it's a fraction of what most of our members are earning. And they're really struggling to survive. Their families have suffered extreme hardship as a result of this long delay in this process.
Of the 10 billion rand expected from the government, just over 2 billion will go towards paying around 3,000 workers voluntary severance packages. That will see ordinary workers getting around 350,000 rand each, while pilots are set to receive up to 2 million rand each. The rest of the money will be used to pay debts and to start a new, smaller national airline. Last week, Friday, creditors agreed to delay a decision on whether or not to liquidate SAA after the government made a last-minute written commitment to come up with the money during this week. Liquidation will be back on the agenda this coming Friday if the government fails to honor its commitment. Mbongeni Mucho, SABC News, Johannesburg.